Hello, I'm Ben Norrington. This is a presentation to show you some of the videos and pictures collated through a year of work. It jumps around from project work to incident response and fish surveys. These first images were taken around December last year. They're of a couple of lakes that have benefited through the Fisheries Improvement Fund, whether big off-channel scrapes or actually helping fund to acquire the fishery, as seen in this video for Harwich Angling Club. It's a long process maintaining or actually physically developing a lake, and the Fisheries Improvement Programme is really helpful financially to get a starting point as a sort of 50-50 fund to help some of these lakes. This one is in Malden, which was a very old fishery that had been lost due to encroachment from too much trees and silt. The fund helped them maintain it over a couple of years and get it back to its former glory. These are swims that are just cut on the river, and this isn't through any kind of funding, it's through our sort of services for the operation delivery team. This is an old age pensioner section on the River Blackwater. I find it very difficult to access the river through the winter months, so our guys go in with a planning site cutting plan, and they cut it 3 times a year to help the anglers. It's not just the fisheries improvement projects we're helping with over the winter. A lot of our netting work, our sort of fisheries management advice and guidance is based on actually looking at stock levels in lakes. It's quite useful for the fishery for us to help with nettings, to look at the balance and even remove stock to donate to other fishing clubs. Stocking is a very important facet of the winter work. We've got a really good relationship with our fish farm, National Fish Farm in Calverton. We're trying to sort of, over the last 5 years, push more tench and crucian stockings to these public angling clubs. So over the last 4 or 5 years, we've benefited 20 clubs with these young fish. It really does help establish a native species back in some of these lakes. And beautiful little fish, and they, it could be 1,000 to 3,000 in each lake for these winter stockings. And last year alone, we helped stock 9 separate fisheries. So very, very happy to see these fish reared and grown by the Environment Agency and put out there in Essex, Suffolk and Norfolk to help boost the lake's native stocks and get people fishing for crucian and tench again. This is the iCarp project, where a lot of funding has come from other avenues, and it's PTSD sufferers therapy fishery. That's been very successful. This is a little walkover survey with the Angling Trust to look at potential coaching venues for this year's fund. Further into December last year, we looked at fight netting and huge seine nettings on a trout fishery in Essex. This was to benefit other clubs with the carp removed and to look at the health of the trout that suffered massive Argillus infections in the summer. Parasites weren't the only problems facing fisheries during the winter.
Right, got 17.
This is a large-scale pollution that happened just before Christmas. Lots of coarse fish dying in a tributary onto the main River Chelmer.
2 pike from the first
result
collection.
Of a huge pipe busted
the fish
by a
between
farm contractor.
5 centimetres.
EM were there to respond, but we were there to
centimetres.
collect evidence and review the actual pollution, and the amount of fish resulted in the mortality. It's not only incidents and potential sewage pollutions that we respond to over the winter. Some of the nicer aspects are seeing the projects when they're completed. This is Kelvedon District Angling Club, who'd put a lot of time and effort in completing this car park, phase 1 of a rehabilitation of their fishery for better access. It's not all rod licence income projects. This is a huge screen put in to help eels not being trained by the water company. So this is a fishery leased by Malden Angling Club. They found some ammonia, and governed by the site's an old chicken farm concerned about water quality issues. So on Thursday I came, tested the water quality, and it's quite high in ammonia. There's land drains here connected to a ditch that's been dug out. A lot of fertilisers gone on, and you've got the runoff issue from the old chicken sheds. So we look at the general water quality, and oxygen level is, percentage wise, is low. At this time of the year I'd expect it to be around 80, 90, 100%. Conductivity is fairly normal. pH is relatively normal as well, but from the ammonia test kit we're seeing elevated ammonia, and this is the colour chart to match up. It's around 1.5, which isn't massively high, but does affect the physiology and anatomy of the fish. Damages gills and other organs, making fish unable to actually breathe in some cases. But yes, around 1.5. Over the last 5 years we've seen lots of these huge muck heaps washing into lakes, so we really put guidance on the farmer or the landowner to either have these bunded or remove them, potentially very damaging to fisheries. The following winter jobs include netting, parasite work, incidents, project development. But this picture here shows the guys getting together to do a netting of a large trout fishery that experienced Argulus infestations. Through refuge egg trapping and recordance to removing coarse fish, it all helps in the sustainability of the trout fishery. The iCarp project helped net this lake with the local contractor Gary Bays, and it just shows what good volunteers, when they put their heads together, can achieve.
Right, so yeah, we're here with Billericay Angling Club because there's been an ongoing either water quality issue or an abundance of small breeding carp. So it's affecting the fishing and the water quality in the overall environment. So today we're just going to do some seine netting using a 100-metre net in the 3 corners of the lake and an electric fishing. And you've all volunteered to help, which is awesome. So we'll all learn a little bit as well today. But we've got another couple of days set in February. So the initial thing for today is to get a sample of these fish for a health check. And from that, you know, visually you can see if they've got lesions or bacterial infections, and that is a sign of a sort of overpopulated lake. So that's the key thing for today. I'm glad we've got so many people because it's a bit of pulling here and there with a net, so it's just follow my risk assessment. There's only 5 people each side allowed at a time because of the insurance. But just follows everyone's instructions and have a good time, and the key thing is getting some of the fish to have a look at, really. So let's crack on.
That was the kind of induction you see on a netting job and a description of why we do the nettings. I hope you enjoy the rest of the videos and presentation. There should be some of you guys in these pictures and some lovely fish from that winter work.
Hi, sir.
Hi, Virtual Angling Club. Thanks very much to the Environment Agency for transporting the fish and netting the fish for us. Great deal.
And I'm glad that rod licence money could help fund the new lake here, which is a match angling venue with the container and the planted up swims. So it's a brand new lake, a really good, important match angling facility for the club members and hopefully the growth of the club.
Thanks again.
And some lovely fish, yeah. Right, we're here doing our routine fish monitoring survey on the River Gipping at Station Road Bridge. It's 2022 and the date is 8th of April. So these are the larger fish from the survey, and it's 125 metres from the bottom net up to the top net. Pike, 571. Pike, 565. Chub, 451. Chub, 457. So it's getting in the wars. Predation. Strong fish. Pike, 596. And then the other fish, we have a few more, if you can have a look in there, dominated with predators, perch, and really good for eels. Lots of little jack pike, very few roach and dace where it's probably shoaled up still, but a good survey.
$98.
508.
67. 66.
Pike,
65.
636.
75.
Chub,
98.
433.
62. 65. 78.
Chub,
Roach 119.
448.
Roach 95, 80,
Chub 406.
roach 119. And
Seeing the river
121.
monitoring via the surveys is very important in the summer months and in the spring. But coming into this spring, we start to experience very dry conditions. Before that, I got to see some of the fisheries improvement project work that had been completed the winter before. This is the iCarp project again with the volunteers. And this is a local fishing club, CPS, helping measure eels and doing a walkover survey for another potential project. Here is a backwater that was created years ago. Refuge traps for eels. Partnership projects to do with pennywort on the Chelmer and Blackwater Canal. And our springtime estuary surveys. This is at Shingle Street in Suffolk. Here is an oil boom used for a zola. And here we are monitoring oxygen levels after a crash from a complete smothering of a zola. After the springtime surveys, I got to see how other bits of spending were put into use. That was a solar aeration unit at the Warren, looking at sustainabilities in fisheries. Here we are back on the C&B Canal, catching some large tench on the river surveys. Really good to report numbers of fish in a true population dynamic of the river and how it changes over 20 years and longer. Great information for the biodiversity scoring of the river and for the local angling clubs. When the weather started to pick up, we started to experience large algal blooms and the oxygen crashes. As well as sampling with electric, we'd use GoPros to film some of the fish, as previously seen. These surveys, 1 or 2 a week, would be juggled in with incidents coming thick and fast, especially this year. Here we are with a couple of different apparatus, the splash aerator and a venturi system. If we struggle, we get the fire brigade sometimes to help out. But always wary of pollutions, like this one seen on the River Crouch. We're still investigating the cause. One cause we can't do anything about is the prolonged dry weather incidents. This is at Glebe Farm, which nearly dried completely up, losing thousands of fish. Fish loss is really starting to get on the increase during these prolonged dry summers. We're seeing domination of plant taxa on lowland rivers. And when there's no flow and some of these barriers are in place, you get a very eutrophic ponded environment. Sometimes they're so big, like this one on Abberton, you have to get massive specialised pumps in.
Deployment of our
like
3 large mechanical aeration systems, the most effective ones. This is the flow ball system, all ready to be plugged in. That's a gas canister conversion on this one, so that'll run for 72 hours. This is the big pump that then is on a 4-inch venturi, which is an awesome setup now, and that took 5 minutes to deploy, and this is mainly for rivers, but any large oxygen crashes. And then we have the normal venturi 2-inch setup. Now hydrogen peroxide could be added to these systems to maximise the pickup of O2. But yeah, these systems are great, very easy to deploy. We have more staff trained in deploying them. This is with the big venturi underwater. Slightly angled up. So yeah, it's an awesome amount of air going in there.
Like with all potential incidents, mortalities are sometimes inevitable. Using hydrogen peroxide, mechanical aeration and even fish rescues can't be enough sometimes. In 42 degrees heat, water temperatures getting up to over 25, disease and parasites can be prevalent. Here we are at a modern angling facility where large carp were suffering due to the heat wave. We took a mortality sample to look at potential diseases, but inevitably we lost a few fish that day. When incidents do come in via our hotline, we respond within hours. We have FDO rota cover for 24 hours a day response. But it seems like the same lakes and the same stretches of river are suffering more and more each year. So we need to look at the management on the rivers.
It's the top end of Canvey Lake at 10 o'clock in the morning. We've got 280%, 23 degrees, and the pH is 9.64. So it's pretty toxic soup. I'll get an ammonia test on my test kit in a minute.
By July, things were getting alarming. We were getting calls in about distressed fish all over Essex. Even borodites were drying up.
The eels rescuing from Cambridge Basin. I've got some little guys helping me. You can see this is just the first run, and there must be over 200 in there. Yeah, but hopefully we can rescue them all.
In some extreme cases, we used mains water when the fish had no other option. Storms are also a worry in the main rivers. Sudden oxygen crashes due to rainfall after prolonged dry weather can be a real disaster for lakes and rivers, as well as doing weed cutting at the wrong time of year, as shown with this one. In late summer, we were still doing the survey programme. Here's some nice bream caught from the C&B Canal and pike. Tench have been really good in numbers this year. Here we are again after a wash-up incident where Andy is talking through his hydrogen peroxide dosing. And here's me just showing we love mullet as well as every other fish on the estuary surveys. This video really does put it into full view of what we're experiencing in the rivers.
People worried about possible pollution, but where the pools further down there have sort of stagnated, you've got an oily film that sometimes can look like pollution or a petrol oil spill. It's actually just the organics breaking down. But this is extreme low water level, so any little fish that have been pulled up probably been pecked off or died from low DOs.
Going through autumn into winter, we were still experiencing large algal blooms and fish kills. The FDO duty roster was still in action. We were doing this alongside fish surveys, eel work, permitting and planning for stockings and taking fish stocks down to a more sustainable level for public angling clubs. But the numbers of fish seen from this year's surveys look really promising. The last few slides are from a range of topics, from working with the enforcement officer Tom Baird on stockings in Hanningfield Reservoir, to biosecurity issues and going to sites to remove fish. Some of the lovely roach here shown from a netting, to the perch introduced to fisheries that had no predators, to working on eel projects with ZSL, and even Essex Wildlife Trust's new fish pass on the River Stour. The year is finishing off how it started, and working for the public angling clubs to rehome fish. Thank you for listening, and I'm sure some of your faces are in there somewhere. It's been really good to show a suite of work going from day to day, and we hope to work with a club near you soon. Thanks and bye.